Welcome, this is Shakti Carola Navran and I'm an evolutionary astrologer and I do this weekly forecasts for you. So today we're going to look a week ahead and discuss kind of in a general sense of how you can get prepared and what you want to pay attention to this week. So I also do this daily forecast 1 minute on Instagram, and I put them over on Facebook. So in the daily I tend to what's happening that day and around the moon, because the moon is so fast, so the moon has all these micro activations. So that's what I'm going to do in the daily forecast. So in the weekly forecast I'm trying to give you a sense of the overall field of energy. And with astrology there's always that intention that if you know what the frequencies are, if you know what the high-end possibilities of manifestations of a certain potential is, or the low-end manifestations, then you have better choices and you might have an easier time to choose how you want to manifest. Hi Diane, good to see you. Okay, so we have quite an intense week here ahead of us. I mean, first of all, we have discussed last week all this Uranian, Aquarian energies which are up there for a month. So we had a new moon last week, and the sun is for a month in Aquarius, the sign of the rebel, the sign of revolution. So with that already the energies are kind of spunky, and there's a high level of energy and reactivity in the air. So when we look into the political field, we can really tell that this is what's happening. In the coming week, this is kind of really coming to a boil. So first of all, we have this early morning, Mars stepped into its own sign. Mars, the warrior archetype, the Amazon, steps into the beginning sign of one circle of evolution. So on the low end, Aries and Mars is violence, abuse, war, all the really nasty stuff. And on the high end, it's actually like all the principles. In the low end, it's problematic. In the high end, this is where something unfolds. So Mars in Aries, the high end is we get an invitation to connect much more deeply with our passion. We get an invitation to be more in contact with our inner emotional field. Also, the moon is going to step into Aries this week, and on Friday Venus is stepping into Aries this week. So we kind of really get that subject of potential violence and defending ourselves and how and all that, we get that in our field. So I do believe that we all are kind of forced to find out how to handle our fears and anxieties with everything coming at us from the outside. I mean, we are a split nation right now, so a lot is there which is anxiety causing. So the question is, how are we dealing with that? The Dalai Lama said the world is drunk on anger. So I think what this week wants us to contemplate and think about is, are we adding to the problem by being reactive and acting out on others, and if we step into violence ourselves, or if we witness those fears, anxieties, inner emotions, and whenever the witnessing function is strengthened in us, then we have a choice. What are we going to do with that energy? So, and then of course we can take action steps to give the energy a constructive outlet. So that's why, hi Pat, that's why I'm always talking about your passion in connection with Aries and Mars. because when we find something we're passionate about and we take action steps towards that, this is where we experience a certain empowerment and where we can let that energy flow in a healthy way. And I've talked about it before. This is our personal PowerPoint, how we deal with our own energies, with our own frequencies. And then it's about what we give back to the field we're living in, to the people we meet in our life. And this is really how the grassroots movement creates change. People change their perspective, their consciousness, and their actions. And that is really what's going to change reality in the long run. So it's not going to be an easy week. I mean, Aquarius energies together with Aries energies has a lot of punch and potential. So you want to really consciously step into that witness. You don't want to get pulled away into acting out. So another way to work your energy flow, because Mars ultimately and neutrally speaking is just your life force energy, your sexual energy. So you could have a lot of sex this week. That would definitely bring in a nice Martian energy flow. You could make sure you go exercise this week. So whenever we have fears, anxieties, anger, and we exercise, it kind of transforms the energy. It doesn't get stuck. Mm-hmm. So sex and exercise. How's that for a week coming up? Okay, so I want to give you some ideas what you might want to contemplate this week. So first of all, you want to ask yourself the question, what's your personal antidote to your fears? I mean, we all have fears at some point, but I think for all of us it has gone a notch up these days. So it's really in our face. How do we deal with those insecurities? And the answer to that will be very individual and different for everyone. So for me, it always works to remember that I'm a wave in the ocean. So I remember that as long as I'm just identified with the top of the wave, that ego plays of this is me and my story, this is where fears are happening. So whenever I find ways to connect to the ocean consciousness, deeper down, there is where I feel nurtured and healed and whole and inspired, and my fears fall away. So meditation, very proven way to tap into the ocean. Any kind of creativity, dancing, singing, being in nature, walking your dog. So you want to really pay attention this week what you can do to balance yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe, even if you have the right to self-defense in situations, but in general I don't think it's really a solution to answer violence with violence. And we had a Mahatma Gandhi, somebody who was the head of a peaceful movement which ended with winning, throwing out the English out of India. I mean, that has never happened before in history. So peaceful resistance, standing your place, defending what's yours, I think that's a good right way of action. And I do believe we have a right to be happy. So we have a right to defend that personal space, that space we need to create and have in order to be happy. So what does it take for you to be joyful, to be happy? So according to Esther Hicks' law of attraction, a problem never gets solved by focusing on the problem, because in a way you keep feeding it. So you always want to pay attention to the high end, to the vision, to the potential outcome you want to move towards. So whatever you can do this week, and that's why I think sex is actually a good idea, to feel good, to be happy, to be joyful, will be helpful to kind of keep your own alignment. And then, because the wave is part of the ocean, you're going to feed that back to the morphogenetic field, and it will help the overall picture. And I mean, Trump is feeding on negative attention, so you don't want to give him that. So take it away. Focus on the goal, focus on the high end, focus on how you can hold that peaceful centeredness in your heart. So that's kind of the message for the week. So part of doing that has to do, when it's about Mars and Aries and Venus in Aries coming up on Friday, then it's really about for us tapping into our own passion. So having good sex, lovemaking is definitely one beautiful way to do that. But any kind of creativity, of tapping into some sweetness, kindness, heart energy will help you. So I think we are all not enough connected with that sense of passion. So that's why I'm always talking about astrology, and when you get a birth chart reading, I'm emphasizing on what's your spiritual goal in this life and what are your tools to get there. So how can you thrive, really? How can you make those high-end decisions in all these different personality aspects? So with the birth chart reading, you get very specific information how to go about it. With these general forecasts, you have to kind of bring it back and see where that is happening in your chart to get more personal and individual information. So if you have any planets in Aries, this is a strong week for you. So make sure you cultivate that witness so you don't get pulled over by the wave and drowning under it. So you don't add to the drunkenness of the world on rage. So I think that's really the challenge for all of us. So as you know, if you have been following me for a while, I also work with gemstones as a way to support ourselves, to hold a certain anchor and focus, to use them for meditation, or if you have jewelry with gemstones, then you can wear it at a certain time. So I want to talk about the gemstone for the week to help you to tap into that passion and to ride the wave in the best way possible this week. So what I want to talk about is the coral. So these are all Tibetan corals, aren't they beautiful? So coral comes out of the ocean, was a housing of little life forms, and it carries the signature of Mars and Neptune and Moon. So especially the Neptune-Mars connection is what I'm looking for this week, because it will help you to transcend the lower ends of Mars, of ending up with reactivity and violence and anger and all that stuff. So if you have a coral necklace or a coral, wear them this week, and you can also meditate with them. So with a chain, it's hard to put on your third eye, where it usually is a nice place to meditate with the stone. But this would be a stone to just put on your chest and just feel how it shifts your energy. The wonderful thing with gemstones and to meditate with them is, because you bring in a certain frequency into your energy field, it will very fast induce your imbalances into a more harmonious field. So for us Westerners, it's so hard to meditate because we're so all over the place on some kind of screens, doing things, multitasking. Especially we women, we're supposed to be really good at multitasking, but it's hard, it's tiring. So then when we try to sit down and meditate, usually our mind goes crazy. The monkey mind is freed. So that's why meditation with crystals is actually a nice way because they help us to tap into the zone, to tap into that centeredness. So whatever gemstones you have, you can always put them, lay them on your body and just lay down and watch what's happening. So it's a pretty fast way to balance your personal energy field. So this week I want you to play around with the coral and see what your take on it is. So if you have specific experiences, please share them with me. I'm curious and always collecting more information about what the gemstone do for different people. So if you don't have more questions, I mean, now's the time. Please make sure you like my video, leave me your comments, questions. I will always get back to you. So yeah, I'm always happy to have some kind of a dialogue, because it's kind of, otherwise I'm kind of talking to this empty space. So it's always nice, Diane, Pat, to see somebody there. So thank you for joining, and make sure you keep your head on your head and your witness close by, and it should be a decent week that way. Okay, no questions, so I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. I wish you all a good week, nevertheless, whatever comes out of it, and namaste and aloha, as we say here on Maui, where I live, and I hope I see you soon. Bye.